The one big Julio Jones Dynasty trade takeaway here, and it's not Julio Jones. That and more this week on the Footballguys Dynasty Show. And let's get right to it. Julio Jones is not the main course of this trade. We knew he was going to be gone from Atlanta. For me, Jordan, it's Calvin Ridley. The fact that he unlocks a ceiling that he was already a mid-wide receiver one a year ago. I think the target potential, a lot of the Football Guys staff we've been banding about there. And, you know, could the Atlanta Falcons offense take a downturn? Could this be a rebuild and it's just not the same as previous years? Absolutely. But Calvin Ridley, 150 plus, maybe even 175 targets in play now as the wide receiver one, and not just, you know, in tandem, the Batman and Robin scenario, or if Julio Jones is out. He is officially out of Atlanta.
Yeah, we've been waiting on this for a while. And, you know, the if you were sort of planning ahead and we're aggressive on Ridley, whether that was acquiring him pre-trade, you know, I think you should see an uptick in valuation. Question is, do you want to pivot now, right? But I think that's a big takeaway in terms of, you know, he basically now fortifies himself as being the wide receiver one there. It'll be interesting to see, you know, is it Russell Gage, old Meaty Zacchaeus, you know, Frank Darby, and some other guys there. But yeah, I think all of those names point to the fact that it's going to be a pass funnel to Ridley, right? I mean, if he's healthy, it's going to be, what's the old line that the Bills said about CJ Spiller, right? We're going to run him until he throws up. Like, that's going to be kind of what the Ridley target situation is going to be. And it's going to be pretty lucrative for Dynasty.
Yeah, I do have a little bit of, you know, is he a true alpha? I know he's not, you know, 6'3", 220, which is what a lot of people think of as an alpha wide receiver. What I do know is I was skeptical of him coming out. He wasn't super productive at Alabama, but what did he get? He was a 5-star guy that got round one pedigree and goes to a team with Matt Ryan, then, you know, firmly in his prime, Julio Jones, and he became the new Julio to Roddy White previously, of just that next guy, and now it's his turn. He doesn't, again, to me, he doesn't really look like an alpha guy, but you know what? He's produced to a high level. He's been over 10% touchdown rate every year of his career, which is not insignificant. I mean, very few maintain that. He gets open regularly. There's not a whole lot to say here. And I will say another part is the Kyle Pitts fanfare for year one. You know, it's going to be tough to slow this train down. This amusement park ride, I mean, it is only going down and people are yelling because it's exciting. And the anticipation actually is like you're going up the hill, because Kyle Pitts, you know, is he going to be the de facto wide receiver 2 within the construct of this offense? There's a lot of moving pieces, from Russell Gage looking better from a floor perspective of usage, Hayden Hurst being more 2 tight end viable than people wanted to run him out of the building. So for Atlanta, I'm pretty excited because I think they're a fun offense with Mike Davis included, for us especially. And again, I don't see them. They might not have a great record, but I don't see them really going in the tank offensively.
Yeah, no, I mean, and you have Arthur Smith. I was comparing Matt Ryan to Ryan Tannehill sort of post trade, and I was just thinking about it. You know, if you set them aside for a second, I don't think there's a clear answer on who's better. I can say I don't think it's clearly that Tannehill's a better quarterback. I don't think that's true. You know, maybe you could make an argument that Ryan is, but that Matt Ryan is. But you know, when you sort of look at what their situations were, you know, they're basically flip-flopped, and you see Arthur Smith come in, and, you know, now this was a situation last year where you had AJ Brown being basically the wide receiver 1. That's going to sort of operate a little bit like, you know, a little bit like what Calvin Ridley will do. You know, they had Corey Davis, so that there'll be a drop off there in terms of, you know, whoever this wide receiver 2 is for Atlanta is going to be, I think, a lesser player than Corey Davis. But then you sort of look and you have, you know, you've got Hayden Hurst, you've got Kyle Pitts, which I think is better than anything that Tennessee had. Sorry, Anthony Ferkser, I know you're my guy, but I think that those 2 guys are both better than whatever you had there, and especially Jonnu Smith. And all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, all this Ryan Tannehill magic that was created, like, the fact that if people are sort of discounting Matt Ryan out of this, it seems to be that seems to be a bridge too far for me, right? I mean, I think if Matt Ryan's going to see a drop in price, I'm in, right? He's locked in on a couple-year deal. I believe in the OC. And listen, like, this is a better situation. I think just overt receiving talent are really darn close to it of what Tennessee had with Ryan Tannehill. So you basically are taking, it's Julio Jones goes from Atlanta to Tennessee, and Arthur Smith went from Tennessee OC to Atlanta head coach. They're passing each other in the night. I think there's plenty of opportunity for Matt Ryan. I think that's a big one, and I think Hayden Hurst is sneaky, probably the biggest. Guy that was probably not relevant to now relevant, especially on the Atlanta side.
Yeah, and let's look at teams deploying their best players. I think clearly for the Atlanta, you're talking about Calvin Ridley, Kyle Pitts, Hayden Hurst, and Russell Gage, plus probably a running back on the field. And the drop-off to the next guy is pretty huge at this point. So we always talk about funnels, how two wide receivers could end up being, top 10, top 12 in the perfect storm without tight end presence or something else. And I really think, Atlanta could be a similar fashion where Hayden Hurst is viable this year. He was a mid tight end 2 last year. And I don't think that's within realm this year. And I think classic point. He's a classic point of 36 years old, and people want to run him out of town. They're going to draft a quarterback. There's so many things on that, I feel like 3 to 5 years potentially for an established quarterback. And so for Matt Ryan being 36, this is the classic point, early to mid 30s of highly productive, stable profile. And yet if Atlanta did run him out, he's going to find work. This is not like he's on the side of the road collecting change. He's going to still be producing for us. He's already outside the top 20 dynasty quarterbacks. So a lot of reasons to be optimistic for Matt Ryan this year. But you start getting that big discount, and they can provide value like a Breeze, like a Tom Brady for year over year beyond what most of your league mates will think and the market will think about their utility level.
Yeah, totally. I'm hunting ways. One of my to-do items this week is to hunt ways to try and acquire Matt Ryan in a trade down, right? So if it's Baker, move from Baker to Matt Ryan plus, right? It's to try and hunt those sorts of deals, because I think it's a really sneaky spot where it might not necessarily hurt him all that much. And I think that you could see some boost from some of the efficiency stuff that Arthur Smith is going to bring. Just running play action more is probably going to pretty close to negate what the Julio Jones loss will be to the offense.
We do need to hit on Julio Jones, as he is the man of the hour, man of the week in getting moved, and he goes to Tennessee. That was one of the projected, favorites to acquire him. And what do you think about this spot where Corey Davis saw less than 100 targets a year ago? This was Julio Jones's poorest season a year ago in terms of production, playing games, the semantics of he's in, he's out, partial games, partial snaps being, pass centric downs, could be limited in that regard. AJ Brown hasn't had big volume. What do you see for Tennessee here with Julio Jones being added? Because the Football Guys staff, we have discussed it heavily in terms of more volume. Is Julio Jones going to actually, see the most targets on the team? A lot of wide range of opinions here.
Yeah, I think there's a very wide range of opinions. And I think you should, if you have a super strong take on whatever the implications are, right, I would just regress it to its mean, would sort of be my thought, because I don't think that we know. That would be the big, I think, overarching thing. I look at it, my take, and there's a variety of takes on staff. So, I mean, we're kind of all over the place. We had a good discussion about it. I think that this is a signal that Tennessee is going to throw more. And the reason why is when you sort of look at what they've done, right, in 4 playoff games in the past 2 years, they have had 300 yards of total offense exactly once. They've had more times with less than 100 yards passing than, which is twice, than more than 200 yards passing, which is once. You can't beat Kansas City. You can't beat Buffalo. You can't beat these teams and go, and play in February if you can't throw the ball. And you're just not going to be able to, you just can't keep up. Right. And, the interesting thing is when you sort of look at, just simple arithmetic, what's a Ryan Tannehill passing attempt been worth in the last 2 years? 8.6 yards per attempt. What's a Derrick Henry rush been worth? 5.4 yards per rush, right? 8.6 is bigger than 5.4 by a really significant margin. And I think that this should absolutely be a signal to us that they're going to throw the ball more. And, they want to get to a Super Bowl. They've made no secrets about that. And they just don't have enough ceiling. And they've got a damn good quarterback. They've got one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the NFL. Like, you have to unleash him, right? You can't, this isn't a Baker, trying to hide Baker Mayfield type situation. Ryan Tannehill's in almost every passing metric been elite in the past 2 years. Like, you've got to hunt that upside. And I think that this could be a signal that they're going to need to throw the ball more.
Contending team, Julio Jones. Let's say it's between now and week 1. Let's say it's early in the season. Do you project yourself as Julio Jones being of that subset, that you're a buyer on Jones as a bridge guy, as a contending addition piece? Because Julio Jones was a later first valuation, and at 33 years old, not knowing where he was going to go. I don't know if this is going to move down much. I mean, to me, the ideal move on a guy like Julio Jones is a second-round pick plus something else, a guy that you're flipping, or the flip guy in and of itself. I found myself late first. If I could try to get Keenan Allen in my rookie draft or someone like that, it gives, in my opinion, probably a little more upside for this year, and also a longer window with a younger, albeit, older veteran in that regard. So is Julio Jones one that you kind of want to wait it out, and it might be a mid-season addition, kind of see how it plays out? Is he really on a non-contender, as opposed to if you are interested now?
Yeah, I don't know how much the price is going to go up. So it's a question of, like, do you want to do it right now, or do you want to wait for a little bit more information and sort of see what it looks like? Again, I could be totally wrong. I mean, what's Sig's line? The fallacy of the the smart coaching decision, right? That we presume rational coaching, right?
Assumption of rational coaching.
Assumption of rational coaching. Sorry, Sig, I butchered it. That's the rational thing, right? That's the thing that would make the most sense. I'm not necessarily sure I want to bet on it. Again, if you're sort of paying second round costs, I mean, he's going in the 30s right now in startup drafts. I don't think that's going to change. The question is sort of that cost. I actually think historically, it's not been a great place to target wide receiver. I think it's a phenomenal place to target wide receiver this year because of where the market's at. But you have other guys a lot more about, right? So at that cost, you've got Robert Woods, you've got Tyler Lockett, right? You've got, Adam Thielen, I think, is not quite in that same subset. But you sort of look at all those guys, and with them, you kind of know what the situation looks like. Cooper Kupp, you kind of know what the situation looks like. And, do we think that we've got Lockett and Woods and Kupp being in the top, they're basically 14, 15, and 17, I think, in that specific order. Do you want to pay a similar cost for Julio when you don't necessarily know that he has that upside in this new offense, right? That would sort of be the question that I would have. And if it drops his price, I'm interested, right? At his cost, I think he's probably neutral to, hey, maybe I would take a shot at one of those other guys that's a little bit younger and I know a little bit more about their situation.
Yep. Good points. And don't want to bear lead, because something that we were talking about before the show is Gus Edwards. And this is, I know, going to get brushed under the NFL news rug, and probably for your dynasty leagues as well, where he was slated to be a free agent this coming off season. They signed him, and again, proactively, 2 years, $10 million extension. This would put him as a slated free agent in 2024, and that actually aligns with J.K. Dobbins with the end of his rookie contract. Now, a lot of times you're going to get, tagged or a new contract or whatever it is. So we'll see about that, but it aligns Edwards and Dobbins. What's your thought here in Baltimore, as Edwards is one of those guys, third round-ish, rookie pick valuation there, heavily affordable, had a career year last year, 700 plus yards. And this is a run game that it's Lamar Jackson, but it's also plenty of workload for two guys to potentially get 175, 200 plus carries. What do you think about Edwards? But also, is there any impact here for J.K. Dobbins?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good sign for Edwards, and I think when you sort of look at people poo-poo him last 2 years in 2020, third in rushing yards over expectation per attempt at 1.14, and in 2019 he was ninth in the NFL at 0.57. So he's no schmuck in terms of that. Actually, Jake Dobbins was second best. So an elite over expectation running game between the two of them. Listen, I think that this is another sign for Dobbins. Like, there's a lot of like danger signs popping up around Dobbins. And when you sort of look at, they ran top 10 in terms of running back routes run last year in Baltimore, and were second worst in terms of targets, right? That is the reality of a rushing quarterback. That is what happens to running backs in the passing game. You have a clear signal that Gus Edwards is going to be involved, and we had that coming in with given his efficiency and how good he has been, and now we sort of get that reaffirmation. And I think that to a degree, would it shock you if Gus Edwards led them in rushing? If he had more rushing yards than J.K. Dobbins, it wouldn't. I think it'd be
right, or just any part of this is not the young guy taking the job, running with the job. He gets 350 and Edwards gets 78. Like, that's not where we're headed.
Correct. Yeah. So I mean, I wouldn't bet that at even money. I think the smart bet would be at
not
even money. Dobbins.
Good thing it's not even
money.
It's
not even money, right? It's definitely not even money. I mean, this is some streets we tend to roam in with the backup running backs. Does this make
he's
Gus
not a
Edwards
backup
the
running
best?
back. Well,
right. Injury away.
He's not. Here's the thing I was going to bring up. I don't think he's an injury away. I think he's flex viable. I think this is like what, 55-45 at worst, 60-40, where Edwards is on the 40 side. Is he going to see more goal line looks? Is there the pot and just wheels up? I mean, if one of them is out, then yes. I mean, we can take off a lot of these bumpers for the upside perspective. But the other thing is Edwards a better fit here? Like, I think Dobbins on the right. Well, here's what I mean. Is that Dobbins is the type of guy that you put him in an offense and say, we're going to give you 90 targets. Like, he can do that. Absolutely. He can be one of those types of players. Edwards is not that guy. Edwards is downhill. Give me that lane, Lamar Jackson, and I'm going to keep that backside honest, and I'm going to truck somebody at the second and third level. And so that's him. He's a perfect fit for this. And so I mean, again, Dobbins is, in my opinion, he has the potential rookie contract to get wasted. And I don't mean wasted like he's running back 30 or anything like that. What I mean by wasted is I think he has number one overall ability of the perfect season, the perfect storm, perfect usage. It's just not here in Baltimore. It's not. They are, I did this high opportunity, high leverage index where it looks at how much is, a goal line inside the 5-yard line carry worth, how much is a target worth. And you know what team came in DFL for high leverage? You combine those two factors. It was the Baltimore Ravens. Right. 32 of 32. I mean, they were average at best at goal line. And so you're saying they're going to split that. We don't know who's going to get more of it. I think it's a puncher's shot either way. And you're saying, we know, what do they keep doing? Wide receiver. It's all about the wide receiver. We still don't know if Lamar Jackson is going to fuel the wide receivers. So, and you're saying you want Dobbins to catch 60 balls. Good luck. So I just feel just like Cam Akers a little bit, he's overcooked. And I would at least, if you have Dobbins, explore the market. Can you get somebody that actually, could he? Yes, but the percentages are super low. And Edwards' injury has to be a part of this. I don't think he has top 5 upside. I really don't. This year, let's see what happens. And Lamar Jackson, he's not going away. No, he is not going away. I mean, he's the exact type. He's way too good for a team just to go, yeah, we're going to move it another direction. No, he's going to be the Ravens quarterback. Win, lose, or draw, injuries, whatever. Like, he's their plan. They're going to try to make the best of it. They're building around him. But they're not going to move on from him. This isn't changing. Dobbins is locked in. Lamar Jackson's locked in. And I don't think this is going to be a high-volume receiving game for the running backs. It's just not. So what are we doing? I like Dobbins, the player. Not a question. But you can't have him on the same prism of like, oh, yeah, I could see a top 3 to 5 season. I'm not saying running back 10 finish is irrelevant, but I'm saying if you have that as a really high end option, probability wise for his curve over the next couple of years, I just think that's short sighted.
What do you think about pivoting from Dobbins to a guy like Eckler? Or Dobbins to a guy,
and the plus, exactly.
Right.
And Eckler, I mean, you want to talk about they're top 5 in high leverage opportunities. They came in at number 4 for me, and the top 5 are tremendously different than the rest of the field. So yeah, Eckler, I mean, the odds he gets 100 targets is about the same as Dobbins getting 30 targets. Same probability confidence for this coming year. Yeah,
right.
So and frankly, right, as a distributor of fantasy points to pass catchers, you probably have more confidence in Justin Herbert than Lamar Jackson. So be careful. Yeah, exactly. So Eckler's a good one. And again, moving upward from Dobbins to somebody else. So you have some chances here to pivot. And what we always say with dynasty trades, every day you don't make a trade and trading is open, you by deduction are making a choice. You're choosing not to trade him or choosing not to explore said trade. All right, Chad Parsons, Jordan McNamara, episode 57, Football Guys Dynasty Show. You're listening to shows like this one. You're a serious fantasy player, but consistently winning is a challenge, and it takes time. You need the Football Guys premium subscription, gives you the edge, helps you make winning decisions in less time. That's the pivotal factor. Dynasty GMs are typically in a bunch of leagues. They love it. Serial players. And what weighs you down a lot of times in season is the waiver get you the edge from all the analysts over there at Football Guys. In July. So we've got a lot of collaborative. Click on that upper right-hand corner that says join now. That'll take you right to the discount pricing page. We'll do the work and you do the winning. So Jordan, it's time for some dynasty trades here. And actually, I wanted to do a little rapid fire here for J.K. Dobbins. So we are talking about him as a potential sell. So this is almost going to be like the, did you get enough in terms of selling J.K. Dobbins? You mentioned some of these potential pivots, and I think it's pretty important here. So for Dobbins, moving up, moving down as we get to it here. So we have Dobbins for Travis Etienne.
Give me Etienne.
There you go. It's hard for Jordan to say no to round 1 running backs. Am I right?
Yeah, I think it's close. It's close. I had to think about it, but in a vacuum, I take Etienne first.
All right, now we're venturing into Eagles land. So this one is a tenuous situation. Dobbins for Miles Sanders and Jalen Reagor.
That's pretty neutral.
Okay.
That's pretty neutral. Okay. I'd pivot at the cost for Reagor. I would pivot off of both of those guys. Like if you could do, you might give these players to me, but Jacobs or someone, other than Sanders. Yeah. I think it's a fair pivot.
I would go about it a different way. Is my nice way of saying it. All right.
I would hold Dobbins there.
Dobbins and Michael Pittman for AJ Dillon and Terry McLaurin.
That's interesting because you figure is the AJ Dillon aspect of that a bigger potential impact in a short sample size. And you're pivoting from running back to wide receiver. I do think Ryan Fitzpatrick unlocks some McLaurin ceiling. I'll take the McLaurin side. All right.
We got Dobbins and Jamal Williams for Najee Harris. If you took Etienne, I'm imagining you're going to take Harris.
I'll take Harris.
All right. This is going to scratch your itch right here. Dobbins for Keenan Allen and a 22 first.
Oh.
More PPR points this year, Keenan Allen or J.K. Dobbins?
That's good. What's the line from Festivus? That scratches me right where I itch.
Right where I itch. Frank. All right, so Dobbins and Javonte Williams for Saquon Barkley.
Oh, give me Barkley.
All right, and last one, Dobbins for Brandon Ayuk and 105 in Superflex.
Oh, smash the Ayuk side.
There you go. Because 105
you're
might
getting
get Najee Harris.
Ayuk or ETN, right? You're getting
exactly.
That's at worst, right?
Or Mac
that's
Jones.
or
you could just
quarterback
take Mac
too.
Jones there. I mean,
take Mac Jones. Could just go step up and take Trey Sermon. It might be pretty close.
All right, so we got some non-Dobbins. I want to do some Dobbins rapid fire there, and I figure it was right up your alley. So let's
get to the Anthony Ferkser segment.
Exactly. So now I'm going to rattle off 10 Anthony Ferkser trades. We have my this is in a 10-team one quarterback, and this is just, again, we're talking about process in this year's class. 202 and 204, so that's 12 and 14 overall for 105.
Oh, smash 105.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before.
Picks.
Yeah, just moving up, right? Just keep moving up. When you can get inside tier lines, and 5 locks you. Worst case, Javonte Williams. That's worst case.
Right.
All right, so we got a Julio trade here, super flex. Julio and a 22 first for CD Lamb.
Oh man,
it's a tough one for you.
It's not really. I'll take the Julio side. I'll take the pick. Listen, I think that CD Lamb is probably the most between CD Lamb and Jerry Jeudy. They're the two most overcooked guys in Dynasty.
Well, Judy's a fraction of CD Lamb's cost, right? So
yeah, but no, actually no.
Closer.
So Jeudy, you ready for this? I'm doing a piece. So teaser. It'll be coming out soon. But I'm looking at basically where guys are real draft position for guys, where they're going, and comparing it to our projection, right? So guys that are projected better than their RDP, that's a really good sign. And guys that are, projected worse than their RDP for 2021, you got to be really cautious there. And, basically all the rookies are projected worse than what their RDP is, which is natural. But what you see with a lot of these second-year guys, and this is a story we've done over and over again, which is we've done it with Amari Cooper, we've done it with DJ Moore, we've done it with Juju Smith-Schuster, right? Every guy that had a pulse last year for a week, we put as wide receiver 1. We anoint these guys, and then you know what? Let's brass tacks for a second. CeeDee Lamb played like 2 less games in terms of total snaps than Michael Gallup played last year. Okay, so let's be totally honest about what he did. This is one of those situations where in a couple of years, people are going to look back and be like, oh, like we really went, like wide receiver 7 was too expensive. Like, no kidding. Like, this isn't a pattern that we've consistently done.
Is Amari Cooper going away this year? Is Zeke going away this year? Dak in the red zone going away?
Lead the league in receiving. That's the curious one. You know what I mean? Like, that's I don't know. But I get I'm on the, someone put out that the top 5 wide receiver tandems today, and they were like, how is Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb not there? And I said, because CeeDee Lamb doesn't qualify. CeeDee Lamb's doesn't qualify for that top 2 duo because he's not one of the top 2.
You can get more than this trade. I mean, you're taking the Julio side, but you can get more. I mean, this feels like a really low sell of CeeDee Lamb. Like, I actually wrote down, I mean, he feels like a dynasty blank check, right? I mean, he is like if someone comes calling, you can basically ask for almost whatever you want. Like, is that what it feels like? Like, you could get a younger wide receiver than Julio Jones plus the first. I mean, you might be able to get, you can get Keenan Allen for sure. Like as a proxy of this deal, you have a lot of options with CeeDee Lamb, especially if you're going to pivot to other positions or divest to 2 or 3 things. And so again, I think I was actually going to ask you, since you took the Julio side, I mean, what are the odds Julio outscores Lamb this year?
It's worth noting. I would counter that because I do think you could get more. I think your point's apt.
But the question is, would you take it? Yeah.
Right.
Like, that's what it is. Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, it'd be close to me, right? I mean, it'd be close to me. I would probably,
But you're probably also saying, you know what, I'm going to get with that first in a super flex. I'm going to have a lot of options, next year. And Julio, it's not like he's going to, the projection is it's not like he's going to hemorrhage points per game to CeeDee Lamb this year. It's sort of the right. You're trying, you can really level it for the next year or 2 with Julio, and then you get the pick where you could make. I mean, imagine if you use that pick, in the off season, or it comes on the clock and you trade it for a veteran and then a first in 23, and then so you get more options like this and more outs than if CeeDee Lamb. I mean, you're pretty much banking at some point that Amari Cooper leaves, right?
Yeah, which
doesn't. But Amari Cooper leaves. If Gallup leaves in the offseason, I mean, it clears up Jordan, and like what you said about the, he's the, Lamb's the wide receiver 3, so Gallup leaving would actually help quite a bit. Like that was your running joke for like 10 months now. So that was the, you got to be careful. But so that would, take out one target guy of the offense in the offseason. So Lamb will just get fueled even more. But you needed to thin out a little bit, for this to truly be worthwhile. This Lamb is deserving of a lot of the prices he has now. At least,
it's the year 2023, and the Dallas Cowboys have now franchise tagged Michael Gallup for the second time, and we're still waiting for CeeDee Lamb to get his shot.
All right, so this last one is going to be proper process or incorrect process. We got FFPC Superflex Best Ball. Boy, they have a lot more formats than they used to have. And that's all I'll say. Used to not have either of those, I believe. So we've got Jalen Waddle and a 2022 second for Brandon Ayuk. Proper process or bad process?
I think the move from Waddle to Ayuk is pretty significant. So give me the Ayuk side.
Right. Well, how about we take a guy that came in and right away started producing, looked the part, versus a guy that, yes, he was drafted earlier, but same round one, which you've said before, the ordering of these round one wide receivers isn't always super sticky and prudent. We're not very good at that, I think, as your stock line goes. And again, so Ayuk is already on success track. Jalen Waddle, is he going to be? The odds are lower than already putting that year one in the bank with Ayuk.
Yes. Yeah. And I don't know, Waddle wasn't productive, right? And that's one of the big things we look at college is what's your production, and Waddle wasn't it. So,
but for 4 weeks, he outscored Devonta Smith.
Yeah, you know what the funniest thing is it was like, hey, look, Devonta Smith didn't break out until real late,
years old or whatever it was.
Yeah. And everyone's like, well, he look at how good he was when Jalen Waddle got hurt. And I was like, wait a second, where
are we going with this? I feel like it's one of those, if you ever watch the Pee Wee Herman movie where it's like he was driving and he kept seeing these signs driving in the dark, and they, it's like curve in the road, and one would be like curvy, but it got to the point where it was literally like a knotted shoelace. And he was looking at it, he ended up wrecking the car or whatever. But it's like, when you were talking about that logic, I was like, where are we going with this? Where does this road lead? You're like, wait, Waddle wasn't productive because of Devonta Smith. And then it all circles back to because of Jerry Jeudy. I knew it. Because of John Mechie. I knew it. It's all Mechie's fault. It's from an Alabama receiver that wasn't even there yet. It's just a thought. The thought that they were going to appear. Yeah. That's what it was. All right. Finally, we got quotes from the Footballguys Dynasty Forum this week. You can go over to their completed Dynasty trades. Great, thriving discussion. You can put your trade in. You'll get some feedback, good discussion about player value as well. Pull them from there if you want to have inclusion on the show. This is regarding Antonio Gibson. Nobody likes the 23-year-old running back that finished number 7 overall last year. Was that you? Did you write that?
Yeah, I don't know what we do sometimes. Yeah,
by the way, Washington clearly number 1 last year in high leverage opportunity score above San Francisco, Colts, Chargers, Saints. So number 1. Thank you, J.D. McKissick, for siphoning so many targets. But Gibson Love maintains.
Did you see the Ryan Fitzpatrick first day of school sign today?
Shave his beard.
No. Did you see they did a sign? It was like, he's like, yeah, I am 37 years old. It's my 17th year.
Billy Madison.
It was like, who's my teacher is Mr. Rivera, and my friends are Terry and Curtis.
So good. So good. Yeah, I'm really so excited for Washington because their offense last year was so boring. I'll just say it. Unimaginative. And you know what? They won some games. They won a division. Great job. But with Fitzmagic, actually exciting this year. And Gibson, we'll see. Good doctor doesn't seem too concerned about the turf toe. But that is something that Gibson was limited by a year ago. But man, wheels up if he is healthy this year, and pretty excited about it.
How's 66-1 to win the Super Bowl feel for Washington? Feels pretty good.
Sneaky good. I have Will Fuller and would much rather have Michael Carter at this point, but some of this depends on roster construction. Carter has quote unquote potential, which is more valuable at this point than what we already know of Fuller.
Will Fuller doesn't have potential? Will Fuller's got like big time difference making potential. I don't know.
Like a day 3 running back does?
Yeah, he's listen, in a what's the funny thing is you take like the argument for some of the running backs we make the argument for is like, hey, in short sample sizes they can make a big difference. Like Will Fuller's that guy as a receiver. Like what happens if you ever like put it together for he's outproduces his costs on a per game basis.
What if we go into the assumption for this year that Jalen Waddle may not be high impact right away? How does the depth chart look in Miami?
The guy that didn't break out in college, right?
What if Tua is actually good? Right. What if he's good? What if Devontae Parker is out? What if the 1-game suspension doesn't hold Will Fuller back? And guess what? He's on a 1-year deal. So Will Fuller probably will still be at the NFL in 2022 as well. Would it be funny? You have 0. We have collectively 0 Michael Carter shares, correct?
Yeah, I don't think I have one.
Okay. Yeah. I wouldn't think you played in proactive Devi enough to be like, yeah, I got Michael Carter 3 years ago. But what would be funny is he would be the exact type of guy where would be like, yeah, I have a random share or two, like in a year or two, because it's like everyone's off of him and he's off the waiver wire.
This is like this is the we're talking about this via text or tweet or something. This is the David Montgomery, Darrell Henderson, the rule, right? Everyone's overcooked as a rookie, and then you wait a couple years and be like, hey, he hasn't been that bad, and everyone's sort of out on him. And like, wait,
hey, okay. Keyshawn Vaughn. Oh, it's a deep league, and he's on the waiver wire. I kind of back in. I can kind of buy this. It stinks. It stinks, but I'm going to embrace the stink. It'll
be the same career arc as CeeDee Lamb. It'll be perfect.
Yeah, there you go. It'll align. They're all buried on depth charts. The Jonathan Taylor hype is over the moon. David Montgomery's value is shredded based on a weak end of the year schedule. But where's the narrative on Taylor's equally cakewalk finale? I like Taylor, but I'm not sure he's a better running back or even in a better situation where they shouldn't be valued equally.
I wouldn't say that they should be valued equally. They should be valued closer. I was talking about that difference in cost versus RDP earlier at the receiver position. One of the most overcooked guys is Jonathan Taylor. Right? We've got him at 10. He's an RDP of 3. That's a. And I'll say the other thing about Taylor is we project him to basically be the same per game in terms of receiving. Like I'll take the under pretty aggressively on that because I just don't. You're moving
going to be Rivers. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You're moving from Rivers, who's an all-timer at supporting receiving. I mean, from everyone he's ever played with has outproduced their receiving expectation, to Wentz, who has underperformed with anyone he's ever played with. And I just I don't know. We were doing the projections for the AFC South. They could be a catastrophe if Wentz looks like the way that they look. I mean, they're wasting a Super Bowl prime, taking this endeavor with Wentz. Like he better be good. And I don't know. I have questions about Taylor's upside, right? But I think, at cost, right, it's Taylor. But David Montgomery's underpriced. So I think that he should be much closer. Again, they're not in the same. I just think Taylor's a better player. But I do agree with the premise that they should be valued closer. It would be an interesting pivot, right? What's the plus on that? Because I think it's a big plus. But I would explore it. I probably wouldn't, set out to specifically do it, but I would definitely explore it because I think the gap might be enormous there.
Russell Wilson is probably a top 3 QB that I'd want quarterbacking my real life team. He's just not a guy I'm comfortable with having on my fantasy team.
Why?
Well, he's just not as good as NFL, I guess.
I don't know. I mean,
he's not because I think part of this, like remembering how the thread was developing, is that late in years, they turn into a running team. They don't let Russ cook, And again, in a small sample size of, well, it was week 13 and week 16, and I lost my league. And Russell Wilson didn't put up a big game. Selective sampling there.
Yeah, I mean, we could really get into we could really totally dive into that, because there was a week 18 game where I think he went like 350-4, if memory serves. And I know that because very specifically, I had him and Baldwin stacked on top of each other in a league, and they won me a significant profit that year. So I just know that that's not true. And I think we've done this segment on this show before. I'm almost positive we have, because we were discussing, there was this argument that he's not good in the playoffs, and he went 271-3 in 2018 in week 16. So
not 405. Got it.
And he went 57 yards on the ground too. So, I mean, that idea is just, he's the most underpriced. He's the best value at
Wilson's an assassin. Right, yeah, it wasn't like QB 8 to 10 or something.
Right. Yeah. He's the best value at quarterback right now.
All right, last one, and there's plenty to unpack here. I understand the raw data. However, this is a weekly game. And although the overall total points are not thought of as significant, and they're referencing about Patrick Mahomes here, 6 points per game over an entire season, the advantage of Mahomes over other quarterbacks, he's generally a top 5 quarterback every week. So although his yearly totals may be close to others, when the season is over, his weekly floor is very advantageous to have.
I tend not to care the order in which the points are scored. So it doesn't really, the consistency argument isn't one that really matters. But I mean, the same argument is basically, it's the anti-Wilson argument, right? By the way, 350-4 in 2016 championship week.
You're still on this.
I'm still on it. I'm just scrolling down, just checking out all the numbers that he's had.
What would be funny is if you just said, you're like, yeah, that's cool. All right, so on Wilson.
Yeah. Just harkening back for a minute here.
Yeah. Cool quote, bro.
Yeah, cool. We got this. So I mean, he's a trump card. I mean, the 6 point difference.
That's pretty
whatever
big.
The 6 point. That's a win. I mean, that's essentially a win.
A quarterback win. That's a quarterback win.
That's a huge difference. It's a huge difference. I mean, listen, I think, I saw a trade today where it was Herbert plus, and I think the plus was like a T Higgins, someone like that. It wasn't that big of a plus for Mahomes. I was like, I would knock grandma over to get to the court to your
memory. Have you seen an overpay for Mahomes in Superflex?
I don't think there is such a thing.
That's why I'm asking. Okay. To your recollection, you have not seen one.
Listen, I don't think, no, I haven't. I could.
This sounds like what should an NFL team to trade for Aaron Rodgers. It sounds like those NFL discussions you hear on radio and all that stuff.
Right. You give like 8 first-round picks. The funny thing too is like I should do a thought experiment of like how many first-round picks. Like if you just sort of taken the value of the picks. There was an interesting one that they did with Denver, and it was like, hey, like, you're thinking about trading 4 or 5 first-round picks, whatever it was. And they were like, well, let's go back and just look at your first-round picks. And it was what? How
many great players did
Judy and Fant, and they had a defensive lineman, I believe, at one point along the line too. Was it Brad? It wasn't Bradley Chubb, I don't think, or was he one of the guys? I don't know. Whatever it was, he, it was like you would give him a heartbeat from Mahomes, like you wouldn't flinch. And that's kind of the thing with with Mahomes and Superflex. Like he's just such a difference maker.
Yeah, I go back to the one startup I can recall, and I took begrudgingly Patrick Mahomes like 2-3 years ago, I think, at 101. And it was like I was trying to trade, I was trying to get that big juicy package to start off my dynasty team, and didn't get what I wanted. And I just sat there. I took Patrick Mahomes. And the funniest thing was, like, I had a lot of work in progress type stuff going on about my team. You're at the 2-3 turn, and it didn't look quite as juicy in the mid rounds as it is for example, in 2021 startups. But I remember Patrick Mahomes was great that year. I was middle of the pack. I almost made the playoffs with a lot of others. Like, he rights a lot of wrongs. And I've
Oh,
been
yeah.
competitive. I've been competitive every single year. And I specifically remember that first season where it was like I wasn't planning on contending, but basically down to the last week or two, I was. And and you just so if you have Mahomes, you lock in an anchor like that. You can, and I say like that. I mean, in Superflex, there really aren't other ones. So, but he enables you to build around. And he would be, I was having this conversation earlier this week that you're talking about guys that how long are they really going to last on your team? And you look back at your rosters from 3-4 years ago, and it's like you might have 2, 3, 4 guys, maybe that haven't been traded or dropped or whatever. And Mahomes is probably that one guy, right? That you would say, if I'm looking out 3, 4, 5 years, has the highest percentage chance probably to still be on your team, regardless of who else you have, just because of the nature of the position, the fact that, like you mentioned, I mean, who's going to pay truly what he's worth, as you're referencing?
Yeah. All right. Ready? Can we do a quick rundown of Mahomes trades real quick?
Give me the highest one. All right.
Trevor Lawrence and 106 for Mahomes.
Right.
Smash Mahomes, right?
Well, Lawrence is so young. I mean, he's got 101 pedigree. Mahomes doesn't have that.
2 future thirds, Nick Chubb and Justin Fields for Mahomes. Like,
that's got to
knock over my
right?
infant. Here's an interesting one: Stafford, Elliott, a future first and a future second for Mahomes. I would still take Mahomes, but I think
that's the closest one yet.
Right. Here's another one: Herbert, Akers, Gerald Everett for Mahomes and Mixon. Again, I think that's smash.
Well,
Mahomes.
Now that you said Everett, I mean, are they throwing in Will Disley too?
There's a couple of thirds on the back end of that. So here's one: Baker, Dak, and Edmonds for Mahomes. But the Mahomes side has a first, second, and third attached to it. Again,
wait, what?
Killing.
Hold on. Time out. Cut it out.
Right.
What?
Right.
What are we doing?
Yes.
You had me. I was going to ask you. I was like Baker and Dak.
And Dak. I was like, right. Yes. This is like my kids, but yes. No, I mean, it's like you're getting a first and a second and a third on top of there just hasn't been one, right?
Well, the one thing you
Lamar
better
Jackson
do,
and Mark Andrews in tight end premium, light premium in a couple of seconds. Again, I'm still taking Mahomes.
No, come on. So what you've deduced is you have the potential with Mahomes to address 2 to 3 positions. That you can get a good quarterback coming back. You can also get a running back, a wide receiver, tight end. 2 of those probably added on, maybe picks or whatever. Like that's you. Well, the logic doesn't even stick if you're a quote unquote rebuilder, because we just outlined that Mahomes is like the guy you would build around, right? I mean, QB2 is a lot easier to fix when you have Mahomes. That he's your anchor guy, or it's like, well, I might not contend for 3 or 4 years. Well, he's still going to be there for you. So you have that benefit as well. So that doesn't even hold logic where it's like, well, I got one good player, it's Mahomes. Well, do your best to build around him. I mean, I outlined, it's not like my team was horrible, but the point is I was competitive. I was competitive with Mahomes and a bunch of stuff that I was still working out, a bunch of backup running backs in year one that probably didn't hit if thinking back. And so that doesn't even hold water of like, so I have to trade him for, just to go fuel what you said. I have to trade him for CeeDee Lamb, a first, and Baker Mayfield. I have to, so that doesn't really hold water.
Here's the closest one that I have seen so far.
All right.
Mahomes for Dak Prescott, Elijah Moore, and Irv Smith. And the only reason that's close is because I have Dak Prescott. Like, you're not going to find someone that's a bigger Dak Prescott dynasty guy than me. But Elijah Moore and Smith it's start one, tight end, and no premium. Like it's nothingness, right? You're adding nothing to the Prescott side with the assets that you're dealing with. I don't think the gap is super, super huge between the two, but that doesn't do anything to thread it together.
Okay, final question here. So if you were trading Mahomes away, do you think it's a more optimal scenario in Superflex of not getting a quarterback in return? That, hey, I have Dak, Mahomes, and like Justin Herbert. Like, you feel good about the quarterbacks you'll still have, and so you divest to other positions and picks and combo, all that type of stuff. Or do you think the best out of the marketplace, if you were selling, would be to quote unquote downshift at quarterback and get something back like that, plus all the additional things? What do you think garners the best avenue?
I think the best avenue would be to hunt the Russell Wilson owner and the Russell Wilson GM and say, figure out the plus that can be had, because that gap shouldn't be as big as it is, right? Wilson shouldn't be going behind. Yeah. Wilson shouldn't be going behind Burrow. He shouldn't be going behind Lawrence. Right? He should be going basically as a top 6-7 guy. And that's all recency bias, and you can exploit that, but you got to hunt the big gap between the two of them. That would, if I was going to pivot off Mahomes, that would be the first salvo I would fire. The other one I guess you could look at is you could go to other positions. It's just going to be, you're going to be looking for.
Are they going to have enough firepower? Right.
That's a lot. That's a big deal. But I think it's an interesting. Could you go to Stafford plus, right? Those are different ways I think you could do it. That would sort of be my two initial salvos. How risky do you want to get? Because like the plus to Watson right now would be something like, hey, if you want to try and build a nuclear upside type return for Watson, like figure out what the gap between him and a nuclear return for Mahomes. Watson's got that. He's in the same supermax strata for me, but he's distressed right now, right? You sort of figure out, you trade that cost for whatever you can add to it. And in 12 months, you could have the side that's right. That's, I think, the way that you sort of attack trading Mahomes. But that is a massive risk, depending on how you feel about that particular situation.
Right, because 3 to 5 years from now, you could look back and be like, that might have cost me a couple titles. It's possible that cost me when he puts up a 45, 50 plus touchdown season, and those are in play every year. Like it feels like it's just a Chiefs decision on if that's actually going to occur, and we'll see. Imagine if they actually figured out wide receiver 2. Like, imagine if that worked out with Sammy Watkins, or if it works out with McCole Hardman or whatever. And again, they're just playing around. Like some of these games, you watch it and it's like them getting stopped is just like a luck venture, a tip pass, a penalty that put them in 2nd and 25, and they still almost get it. Like it really is. Like if you're playing against that Chiefs side, it's just, it's a tough watch sometimes to get them off the field for sure. All right. In this episode, we discussed a lot about Patrick Mahomes. Didn't even plan on that at the end there. We talked about profiles, of course, about shifting from unproven to proven entities there. We also talked about Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley at the beginning of the show. Matt Ryan, that was a nice addition there, talking about him in Superflex as an undervalued profile. I am Chad Parsons. He is Jordan McNamara. And until next time, good luck in your Dynasty leagues.